My name is Anthony Horvath. I'm the Executive Director of Athontos Christian Ministries, and my apologetics ministry is located at stjohnny.com. Today I want to speak briefly about miracles and the presumption of atheism, otherwise known as the presumption of naturalism. Back to David Hume and beyond, the regularity of the natural laws led people to posit that a miracle was impossible. The idea was that our experiences report consistency in the universe around us, and the very fabric of our knowledge and how we gain knowledge, our epistemology, depends on that consistency. Any other naturalistic explanation for an apparent miracle, no matter how implausible, no matter how little evidence, is more likely than an actual miracle. So, one must always dismiss the miraculous claims. There are a number of objections that have been made to such argumentation. My point is not to raise those today. My point is to show that the very observational grounds that leads the atheist to decide that we must always take the naturalistic explanation is in fact the kind of observational basis that we would need to see in order to reliably detect a supernatural agent, if one existed. I am not arguing that a supernatural entity exists. I'm just saying that in order to know that one exists, you would need to have a baseline of natural phenomena so that you could recognize the action of a supernatural agent if it existed and chose to act. If everyone could walk on water, then the idea that Jesus walked on water would be unremarkable. If virgins were giving birth left and right, the idea that it happened once 2,000 years ago wouldn't attract our attention. So on and so forth with every other miracle that we might raise right now. In other words, in order to detect the action of a supernatural agent, we need to have a general understanding of how nature acts and what our own limits are within it. For a supernatural agent, presumably, would be able to be the only kind of agent that could violate those limits. In order for a supernatural agent to validate its claims about itself, there needs to be an established regularity in the natural laws. If nature was chaotic, we could not establish patterns, and consequently, we couldn't detect deviations from those patterns. So, far from being evidence for atheism and far from supporting a presumption of naturalism, the observed patterns of the universe are the prerequisite, the minimum requirement for reliably detecting a supernatural agent, namely God. That doesn't mean that there is a God. It doesn't mean that we have to believe every report of a violation of the laws of nature that we hear. It doesn't mean that anything that says that it's a miracle should warrant our attention. But it does mean that we can't dismiss such claims out of hand, especially if the very point of our investigation is to decide if there is a God. For it is precisely such accounts, and only these kinds of accounts, that could allow us to reliably determine if there is a God. If everyone witnessed miracles every day, we wouldn't call them miracles, we'd call them natural occurrences. Miracles, by necessity, if we're going to classify them as miracles, must be generally rare. So as far as we know, the prerequisite of an orderly universe has been met. In other words, the scientific method, which so many atheists claim has made little space left in our intellectual lives for God, is the very thing which has established in pretty clear detail what patterns exist and what our limitations are within them. That doesn't mean that there is a God. It just means that it's worth looking into the question. Thank you.